Picture this. You're tucked into bed, your partner beside you, the door shut, the lights off. You're completely on your own. Laughter. For nearly all of human existence, that scene simply didn't exist. No doors, no walls, no bedrooms. Just you, your relatives, and a couple dozen other bodies sleeping within arm's reach. So how did early humans manage to get any privacy at all? Short version, they couldn't. Long version, it's far more fascinating than you'd think. Let's set the scene. For close to 300,000 years, people lived in tight-knit bands of maybe 15 to 50 individuals. These weren't just relatives in some loose sense. They were pressed up against you constantly. Hunter-gatherer camps had 0 walls, 0 separate rooms, 0 hidden corners. People huddled together to stay warm, ate side by side, and gathered around the same shared fire. Any conversation was a public conversation. Any flash of temper was witnessed by all. And if a couple wanted a moment to themselves, the whole group knew exactly what was happening. So how did people pull it off? Researchers who study present-day hunter-gatherer communities have spotted a few recurring tricks. First, timing. Most private moments happened under cover of darkness, once everyone was asleep, or at least faking it. Night gave people a kind of mental privacy, even without any physical barrier. Second, distance. Couples would slip away from the campfire, not too far, since wandering off meant risking predators, but enough that they weren't pressed right up against their neighbors. 50 feet into the dark was practically invisibility. Third, and maybe the most crucial trick, collective pretending. Everyone simply acted like they hadn't noticed. Think of it this way. You're crammed into a tent with relatives on a camping trip, and someone needs to change clothes. You don't gawk. You glance away. You hand them a kind of invisible space even when there's no real space to give. That's essentially the system early humans built for themselves. Agreed upon blind spots, even when full awareness was unavoidable. Here's the twist, though. The very concept of privacy might not have meant much to them at all. The anthropologist Colin Turnbull lived for years among the Mbuti people of Central Africa and noticed they had no term for privacy. Not because they lacked sophistication, but because craving solitude was a foreign idea to them. Being alone wasn't peaceful. It meant losing the group's protection and becoming exposed. For nearly all of human history, isolation wasn't restful. It was lethal. Now, the question everyone's secretly wondering about. Bathrooms. There weren't any. No toilets, no outhouses. When nature called, you simply walked off, usually toward a spot downwind of camp, did what you needed, and returned. Was that private by today's standards? Not remotely. You were out in the open the whole time, but the unspoken rules still applied. Nobody trailed after you. Nobody watched. People extended that same courtesy of deliberate non-observation. It's not so different from a crowded public restroom today. Other people are clearly there. You can hear everything, but everyone agrees to act like they can't. Sleep worked the same way. Early humans bunked together not by choice, but by necessity. Nights brought freezing temperatures, prowling predators, and fires that needed constant tending. Clustering together meant survival. Dig sites like Ohalo 2 in Israel reveal that some 23,000 years ago, people built tiny shelters, barely large enough for a family to lie flat in. Everyone in physical contact, no room to roll over without bumping someone. This setup lasted for tens of thousands of years. Even well into medieval Europe, whole families crowded into a single room, frequently a single bed. Kids getting their own bedrooms is a startlingly modern invention. It didn't become standard until the 20th century. So when did privacy actually arrive? Blame or thank? Agriculture. About 10,000 years back, humans started farming, which meant settling down permanently, which meant constructing fixed buildings, which finally meant something revolutionary. A door you could shut. For the first time ever, a room existed that other people couldn't see into. But even then, this was a privilege reserved for the wealthy. The average family still crammed into a single-room home together. The notion of privacy as something everyone deserves is only a few centuries old. Here's the part modern brains struggle with. Ancient people may not have even wanted the kind of privacy we obsess over. Psychologist Erich Fromm suggested that craving solitude is really a byproduct of individualism. In cultures where your identity is fused with the group, being by yourself feels off, even threatening. For early humans, the tribe was their whole world. Survival hinged on everyone else. Identity was inseparable from your role within that group. Solitude wasn't calming. It was frightening. Now we've landed on the opposite extreme. We're drowning in privacy and isolation, and loneliness has become its own public health crisis. We finally got all the alone time we ever wanted, and it's making us miserable. So here's the real answer. Ancient humans secured privacy through unspoken agreements, not physical walls. They built invisible boundaries out of timing, distance, and mutual pretending. They didn't crave solitude because their entire sense of self was wired differently from ours. Then agriculture handed us walls, and slowly but surely, we constructed the world we now inhabit. One where shutting a door means total seclusion, where you might not see another soul for days, where privacy has become so ordinary we've forgotten what it actually cost to get here. For roughly 290,000 years, no human was ever truly alone. Then we built walls, and we've been lonely ever since.